Hey everybody, Tim Moore from the Bulwark here. At our live show on Saturday, I did a little 3-minute hate on Marc Benioff, the Salesforce CEO, who had previously been very prominent in left-wing circles in San Francisco, funding a lot of really lefty stuff, hanging out with Bill Clinton, hanging out with Obama. This guy, now that Trump has came in a second time, has decided that he wants to throw in with the new regime. And he went so far as to tell the New York Times in an interview last week that he wants Trump to send the troops into San Francisco. This is a guy who lives now most of his time on the Big Island in Hawaii, has a compound. I guess he was radicalized because he went to a movie in San Francisco. And he saw people doing drugs. I don't know. Maybe he was a little paranoid himself, unsure, or just maybe he got outside of his security bubble for a minute. Unclear exactly what had happened there, but something happened that caused him to want to bring in the troops to San Francisco. He's fully supportive of Trump now, he says. Well, you can go over to that video if you want to see my full thoughts on this, because Benioff, this kind of thing is the thing that drives me nuts. And it's like, wait, you waited till after the insurrection to get on board with Trump? And you're there because you're with him because you don't like that there's some drugs in the streets of San Francisco, even though the new mayor is actually doing a great job cleaning that up. And even though there are a lot of other ways to deal with that, to fund that, besides having a wannabe fascist sending troops into your city. That's another thing to throw out there. You know, the question is still out there, right, about like what happened to this guy? Did he get radicalized? Is the Ozempic not working? Does he just like hanging out at fancy parties? He did get invited to a state dinner with Trump. You know, you wonder what it might be. And then we have a new story from the New York Times that tells us a little more. It sheds a little bit more light on what this guy's business interests are, Marc Benioff's business interests are with the Trump administration. And this one is pretty shocking. Here's the news story. Shout out to Heather Knight for her reporting on this. Salesforce offers its services to boost Trump's immigration force. Yeah, that's right. I want to read from the article a little bit. Screenshots of internal documents and communications obtained by the Times show that Salesforce has pitched ICE on using the company's artificial intelligence capabilities to help ICE staff up as Mr. Trump expands immigration raids and deportations across the country. It includes a 5-page memo sent on August 26th. It's an important date, August 26th. This memo didn't come in like in January. Not that I would have wanted, my company to be contracting with the incoming Trump government, but you could maybe argue that there's a suspension of disbelief if this comes in January. No, this comes in August 26th, many months after ICE's reign of terror has started, after ICE has been hassling U.S. citizens, after ICE has been detaining people violently, long after ICE started the process of wearing masks, long after ICE came into Los Angeles and to, another city in your state and wreaked havoc, long after ICE was involved in the wrongful deportations of people to a foreign prison camp. Like long after all of that happened, August 26th. They also said, in addition to hiring new goons to wear masks and menace the populace, Salesforce could also be useful in other things. Like, hey, maybe our AI capabilities could help ICE evaluate the tips that were sent in. If you want to rat on your neighbor and send in a tip to ICE, Salesforce can help make that process more efficient. Salesforce, Marc Benioff's like, you know what I can help you do, Mr. Trump? If you want to make sure that your internal secret police is getting the best information about the little old lady who's been in the country for 40 years and lives next door and is gardening, we can make sure to get that for you. Like we can make sure that we can vet all these tips and make sure that you are as efficient as possible when finding the guy that is doing landscaping outside an IHOP that has 3 kids that served in the military. You want to make sure you can find him, locate him as quickly as possible, deport him back to another country, because we wouldn't want somebody here who's lived here for 30 years, contributed to the community, worked, gone to church, raised children, had them serve this country and volunteer. We wouldn't want to find, a way to let them live in the country, continue to live in the country peacefully. We want to make sure at Salesforce that you can root those people out as efficiently as possible and make sure your mass deportation efforts are as efficient as possible. That's what we want to do at Salesforce here. Salesforce can work with you using artificial intelligence to find the people that want to menace migrants, and we can help you find the migrants to menace. Very efficient. What we call this in the business sense is synergies. Marc Benioff wants to find synergies for ICE and ensure that they create a vertical stack. Okay, a vertical stack with the migrants at the bottom of the stack and the masked agents going into our communities, hassling people, hassling the migrants, grabbing them, wrestling them to the ground. And then we have Benioff here and then Trump at the top, kind of vertical. Well, actually, it wouldn't be Benioff next to Trump. It'd be Stephen Miller. So we'd have Trump, Stephen Miller, Benioff, masked ICE thugs, migrants, kind of a vertical integration. That's what Benioff is looking to. And I don't know. I think it's fucking sick. That's what I think. Marc Benioff's one of the richest people in the country. Marc Benioff has the big penis tower in San Francisco. Previously, my only complaint about Marc Benioff is every year he's this thing called Dreamforce, where a bunch of kind of, God love you if you went to Dreamforce and enjoyed yourselves. No offense to you, but it brings in a lot of kind of lanyard wearing kind of quarter zip vest dweebs into San Francisco, a place that used to be the height of culture. And instead, Benioff's brought in a lot of middle managers every year to kind of go to some gaudy party where Benson Boone does flips and stuff. It's just not really for me culturally. But that was kind of a minor complaint. It's okay, helping the economy going. This is kind of how the market works. I get it. I understand that. That had been previously my complaint about Benioff. Now what he's decided to do is pivot to just being a tool of the fascist regime. And for some reason, one of the richest guys in the country has his own tower in San Francisco, has enough money to have a compound on the Big Island, has a private plane, has a big party every year in San Francisco where all the people that work for him get to come and blow off a little steam. It's a really great life. It's a really great life, providing a lot of shareholder value. It seems like he's eating well. He's doing great. Marc Benioff is doing great. And what he's decided he wants to do is become the HR manager for Stephen Miller's immigration regime. So now, when Marc Benioff dies or passes on or whatever, at the end of his life, or maybe not, maybe he's an old man looking back in his life, what people are going to look back on him and say was, you were the guy making sure the paper pushing for Stephen Miller's immigration regime was going as efficient as possible. You want to make sure the trains were running on time for Stephen Miller's immigration policies that are so inhumane that even guys like Joe Rogan and Theo Von and the Barstool Bros that I interviewed, even all those guys are speaking out against it. So you're taking something that offends the sensibilities of pretty conservatively cultural guys. Offends the sensibilities, obviously, of me, offends the sensibilities of, I would assume, many of your employees, because they're committing human rights atrocities on our own shore, and they're doing so outside the bounds of the law, and they're doing so in a manner reminiscent of the East German secret police. And rather than just say, we'll take a pass on that contract, out of either principle or even maybe out of just selfishness that I don't want my employees to feel like they are complicit in all that. Don't want the hassle. Instead of all that, no, it's I want to maximize every cent possible for Salesforce. I want to make sure that I get invited to the state dinners. I want to make sure that Mr. Trump knows that I'm a fan and that he likes me. I want to go to that club now that they have at the White House, the kind of Panera meets Mar-a-Lago vibe that they have outside the White House. I want to do that. I want to make sure I can get invited to all those things. I want to make sure that as one of the richest people in the world, I maintain that status. I don't want to drop from 13th to 14th on the richest scale. I want to make sure of that. In order to do so, what I want to do is be the HR manager for Stephen Miller and Tom Homan and Christy Nome. Okay, couldn't be me. I think it's pretty grotesque. I think if that's what you want to be your legacy, I think the much better legacy was the lanyard party that you threw every year, Dreamforce. Really nice Wasn't for me. A lot of people had positive experiences there. That was a pretty good legacy. But instead, you're like, no, I'm Marc Benioff. I want to be like Stephen Miller's secretary, essentially, but with AI. So it's a fancy secretary. I want to be Stephen Miller's secretary. I just think if I was one of the richest people in the country, that's not how I would choose to spend my time. That's me. If you use Salesforce or work for Salesforce, I'd encourage you to reach out and let them know what you think about it. I think it might be important for Marc Benioff to hear from people outside of his security bubble on the Big Island in Hawaii. So please do that. We'll see you back here soon.